Okay, real worlders, are you ready for the apocalypse? Okay, let's find out. Okay, so I was curious about making a bug out bag, right? So actually spent a lot of time on this, probably almost 2 weeks, just researching items and trying to find the best items to put in my bug out bag, right? And this is what I came up with. So if you look at my Amazon card here, I got all sorts of goodies, right? There's uh, Advil, Tylenol. There's tin snips. You got knives, emergency blankets, of course, a backpack for your bug out bag. Leatherman, all sorts of stuff. Okay. So, and as you can see here, all this stuff adds up to a lot of money, right? And so right now my card is sitting at, over $800, which seems kind of crazy. And I actually spent a lot of time on this. So I was actually trying to find, the best deals out there, the best prices for, the best bang for your buck sort of thing. So let's get into it because I know for a fact that you probably don't need to spend near this amount to create your own bug out bag. You could probably almost go half that, if not less. So let's get into it. Okay. So first thing I want to talk about before we even talk about bugging out and like creating a bug out bag per se is what would you do for everyday carry. So look at yourself first before you look at your bag, right? Because I think that's almost even more important than your bug out bag. So personally, I carry a few items on me at all times. You know what I mean? So I carry a knife, and I also carry a flashlight. And you also want to carry maybe some sort of cash or money, credit cards, stuff like that. Also, you also want to think about, what you're wearing. You know what I mean? So, are you wearing, just, you know, uh, very fragile clothing? Are so I'd probably wear some like, some cotton or some maybe some water resistant clothing. Uh, uh, and then also some waterproof boots or shoes, be helpful. That way, if you have to, let's say you can't get out to your bug out bag and you just have to run out in the woods just temporarily, at least your feet are going to stay dry. You're going to have a knife, some light, and you're going to have some cash at least to, get some food or maybe barter and trade with somebody so you can survive, right? So, but now getting beyond that, so getting beyond the everyday carry, let's get into what I would put in my bug out bag. So the first thing would be, some sort of Leatherman, right? So I would say a Leatherman is very important. Now you could put this on your person as well. So so if you don't like carrying a knife, and and you'd rather carry a Leatherman instead, that more power to you. But I know some people don't like Leathermans just because they add extra weight, to your waistline and bulk and everything else, and it might not be practical for everyday carry. But if you can get away with it, more power to you. So I would definitely recommend a Leatherman because Leatherman is, man, look at all these tools this thing has on it. Pliers, knives, saws, you know, wrenches, all sorts of stuff that you could use in a survival situation. So next would be, of course, the bag, right? So here I just picked out this bag here. I thought it was very, very good. It's a 30-liter backpack. A lot of survivalists I noticed were recommending around 30 liters just because you want to keep that backpack as light and compact as possible. So if you're finding that your backpack's too small at 30 liters, you might want to consider what you're actually putting in it and maybe limit what you're bringing because some of that stuff is just going to be waste of space and it's not really going to keep you alive, right? And weight is a big deal because you need to be mobile when you're on the loose, right? Because if you're carrying around, 150-pound backpack and you barely weigh 150 pounds, that's you're not going to last very long out in the woods, hiking for miles, trying to get wherever you're going. So let's think about that. Okay, next on the list would be shelter. And shelter, I personally went big on this because a lot of shelters they were looking at were 5x7 roughly shelter. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to get wet. You know what I mean? I've been under small tarps before in torrential rains, and a 5x7 tarp is not big enough to keep you dry. So I would recommend a larger tarp. From what I've seen, 10x10 is a perfect size that will give you lots of room and be able to keep your gear and yourself dry. And you could also manipulate this tarp. I've seen all sorts of YouTube videos that used kind of like origami sort of thing to convert this tarp into basically a full-fledged little mini house, a little igloo sort of thing, So I was very impressed. I love this tarp because it had all sorts of tie down points on it, so you can configure this thing whatever way you want. It also came with some paracord and some stakes. Granted, the paracord and stakes are kind of cheap, but it'll get you by. And next, I recommended some more paracord because you probably want some more heavy-duty paracord that's besides what they gave you with that tarp, right? In case that paracord it might be junk or something like that. So you might want to go something a little better, because I don't think you can ever have enough paracord. I just recommend just like stick with like 100 feet of paracord. That should be plenty to do any task or job that you're looking at, and at least get you to survive at least a couple days out there. Because that's really what bug out bag is for. It's not there to be like a permanent fix or anything, for you to live out in the woods for months on end. It's just going to be for, a couple days, maybe a week at the most. So just think about that. Okay. So next on the list is carabiners. So carabiners can go in conjunction with the paracord. I think carabiners are great because that way you can, attach your backpack up high, so that way animals and predators don't get at it in case there's food in it. If you need to, pull something up into a tree, you're going to want to, pull on that rope, with the carabiner. That way, if you're pulling on against a branch or something like that, it's going to be like sandpaper and it could tear your paracord up. So, carabiners are very important. So I'd recommend just a few of those. Next would be, sleeping bags, right? Cause you gotta stay warm and dry, right? And I kind of like these, emergency, sleeping bags. So they're kind of like survival blankets, but they're fully enclosed, and which I like. I think it's going to be very important to stay dry. And if you just have a regular blanket, there's lots of holes, like in the feet area and everything else. And you can also, if it's downpouring rain or something like that and all your gear is getting wet, you can just throw all your gear inside one of these bags and be good, right? And I personally feel like I got, a large family. And so it'd be nice to have, a couple of extra of these things for my kids or my wife or something like that to wrap up in. So I think it's important to have more than one, especially if you have a large family you're thinking about as well, because they might not be able to grab their bug out bag in time, maybe just you. And so you might have to supply for your whole family, right? Next is water, right? Water is very important. It says you can only survive about, 3 days without water. So this is basically a water straw where you can like drink out of a creek or whatever without worrying about getting any sort of bacteria or some sort of illness from that water source. You don't have to worry about boiling and stuff like that. Now, I don't know. I know these people rave about these water straws all the time, but I don't 100% trust them. But apparently they've saved a lot of lives, like in Africa and places where they have contaminated water, and they say they work great. So more power to you. This one's great because you can attach to your if you have just a cheap plastic water bottle, you can actually screw it right on the top of that. Fill it full of dirty water, and you could drink right out of the bottle that way. And next we got a canteen, because a water bottle or some sort. This one I really like this one because it basically, it's a way to store water, right? Because you want to be able to store your water that way you can actually move from the water source to wherever you're going without having to, worry about searching for water. Now, this is great because it actually includes the pot, so you can actually use that to boil water. So if you wanted to boil your water for whatever reason, didn't want to use your water straw or didn't have your water straw, let's say, you can still boil your water in this or cook food and then refill your water bottle with the clean water. And next we have bandanas. Now, I thought this was kind of interesting. So a lot of survivalists claim you want to keep a bandana on you at all times. I think I was like, what, a bandana? I don't know, but I think it was great because let's say you come up to a really dirty water source. Let's say there's like chunks of wood and dirt and mud and everything else. You can actually filter some of that water through the bandana, and at least it gets rid of like 99% of the junk, and that way it's not plugging up your straw and everything else, or if you're boiling it, you don't want all that junk just boiling in your water, right? So that way you can filter out that. Plus, it's a good way to keep yourself clean. If you need to, wipe off your face and wash your body somehow without having, you're not going to have access to showers and everything else. So this is one way to keep clean. Also, if you run across, a patch of berries or something like that, you can, pick all those berries, keep them in your bandana. And munch on them, snack later. So it has multiple purposes, not just for blowing noses and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting. Also, it's great for putting behind your head, keeping your back of your neck from sunburning. You can put it underneath your hat, and that way you can do that. Some people, if it's really smoky out, let's say it's a fire situation, you can use it as a face mask, to filter out some of the smoke. So it has a million uses, so that I'm probably not even mentioning. So if you have any other uses for bandanas, make sure to comment down below. Okay, so next we got Bic lighters. Okay, so I thought Bic lighters were ingenious, right? Because Bic lighters are super lightweight and it's an instant fire, right? We don't have to worry about flint and, some sort of fire source, or finding dry, kindling or anything like that. Well, you still have to find something dry to light, but as far as a fire source, lighters are going to be your cheapest and safest bet. So if you got a lighter, I guarantee you're going to go to that every single time to start a fire if you have it, instead of using your flint, your ferro stick. So yeah. Next, we got duct tape, right? And duct tape, I saw duct tape has a million uses, as you know. So, because you can actually make what I thought was most interesting with duct tape is that it actually works as a great fire starter. So a lot of people were wrapping their Bic lighters in duct tape, and then when they want to start a fire, they just rip off like a couple of inches of duct tape, crumple it up, put it underneath their kindling and fire material, and light that duct tape on fire. And I saw a guy online, that little batch of duct tape stayed lit for up to 6 minutes. Okay, that is huge in a survival situation because especially if you don't have anything dry, duct tape, you can get wet. and it's easily dryable, and you could immediately start that and start a fire. So duct tape also, you could use it to fix your shelter. Let's say you just had a bad windstorm and it ripped your tarp. You could try to repair your tarp somehow. And also, if your pants get ripped or something like that, you can repair those pants or something like that. I actually used to use it on my gloves a lot, because if you're working with wood a lot, it might tear up your gloves, might tear a hole in your glove, and you can just wrap your gloves up in duct tape and then make it really good. So that was one trick. I used to work at a lumber mill, and we did that all the time. Okay, so next is a ferro rod. So this is just a really nice ferro rod. It's very large. You're not gonna have to worry about running out or anything like that. And because sometimes, ferro rods are some of them, they're just kind of small, you know what I mean? And maybe you just want to get that little extra spark. A really nice big ferro rod will help tremendously. Okay. And along with the ferro rod, I'd also recommend a nice bushcrafter type knife. Now this is a knockoff of the Benchmade 162, but as you can see here, this is a fraction of the price. So this is $40 compared to $250 I've seen other places, if not $300. So now, would I recommend staying away from Benchmade? No, because I think they are a great knife. Their steel is top notch, and that blade will last you forever. But it's just not in everybody's budget. So I'm trying to keep this as cheap as possible. So $40 for basically a similar knife, with basically the only difference that I could see is that the blade is a little less quality, and you might just have to sharpen it more often. But otherwise, exact same size, weight, and function. So and this comes with a sheath that you can put that nice large ferro rod in there. So it works out great. So next, if you have a knife, you're going to need a knife sharpener. So I guarantee you your blade's going to get dull really quick out there using it all the time. So just having a nice, cheap, fast knife sharpener. This sharpener, it won't get your blade perfect, but it's good enough on the fly. And you can sharpen the knife in seconds with this thing, and you don't need a special degree in knife sharpening to use it. So it's great. So next, I would recommend a first aid kit. So a first aid kit would be a must in your bug out bag, right? Because if you get injured somehow when you're trying to run away, let's say you twist an ankle or get a big gash in the leg, last thing you want is to get infected, or for that injury to get worse. And then, you're no good to anybody hurt, right? So you got to be able to fix yourself, and so that way you can keep moving. So, so this one, it's not the cheapest, but I felt that this was high quality materials for a reasonable price, and it basically had a nice kit here. So, as you can see here, it's got a nice little baggie that you can attach to the outside of your bug out bag. It's got a, I think it's an Israeli bandage that you can wrap a large wound with, or like around your leg or something like that. It's got a splint. You got some gauze. You got a tourniquet. You got all sorts of stuff, and you got your scissors to cut your clothes off if you need to access a wound, because if you got a wound on the leg, right, like an upper thigh region, you're not going to want to take off that person's pants in order to and risk re-aggravating that wound. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to cut off those pants in order to access that cleanly and get it all taken care of. So I thought this kit was fairly decent. Next, we got gloves. So I think gloves are very important, because especially if you're not used to working outside every day, if you don't have 3-inch calluses on your hands, from working all the time, then you're going to need a pair of work gloves, because I guarantee you, if you're going to be swinging a like a hatchet or a knife or any sort of tool around, moving wood around, you're going to be hurting your hands, right? Your hands are going to get tore up, and especially trying to make a shelter or something like that. So you want to protect your hands as much as possible. So I'd recommend a nice pair of gloves to do that with. And to each his own, with gloves, I prefer, some sort of tactical glove or leather type glove. Maybe something, maybe more waterproof would be better. I don't know. But this one seemed like it had a good balance. I personally like a little bit of leather. And something that's a little more breathable, that my hands aren't going to be sweating all the time, and you want comfort out there too. So there's that. Next is a compass, and this is just a basic compass. Get the job done. And with compasses, you got maps, right? Because compass is pretty much useless unless you really know the area. I mean, if you're really familiar with your area, then you may not need a map, but I would recommend a map no matter what, because you're going to be, out in the woods, and it's very easily to get disoriented out there. And, or even if you're in an urban situation, you might just want to be going from here to, the next city over. Well, if let's say there's some obstacle in the way and you might have to take a detour all the way around that. You want a map to know the easiest way to get to that other point, because, there could be, big rivers in the way, cliffs, some natural barrier that could be hindering your escape route. So having a map is vitally important. Now, some people would say that you also want to bring like GPS units or walkie-talkies and stuff like that. Or so I would, that's great. If you can afford that stuff, that's great. But nothing is more important than just an old-fashioned map and compass, and know how to use it too, because a lot of people, they don't have a clue how to even use a compass, really. So I would definitely, pull it out one day and just see if you can actually use a compass, right? Maybe just next road trip you do, just pull it out and see if you can actually figure out where you're at and where you're going. It would be an eye-opener. So I thought this was kind of interesting to read here. So when you Google the survival rule of 3, right? It says you can survive 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter in a harsh environment, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Okay, so I think we've covered almost all that except for the food. As far as food goes, I would just recommend just doing what's simple. You can throw some MREs in your backpack, or, I like just like power bars, some sort of protein bar, just throw those in there, and that will at least get you going to the next step, at least keep you survive. Okay, so lastly, I would recommend a power bank. So whatever electronic devices you have, eventually they're going to get drained, right? And you're going to need to have some way to recharge those things, especially if there's no access to a power source. So I'd recommend some sort of power bank. I'd recommend as large as possible without, getting too heavy. But you're looking at, you want to be able to charge your cell phone. You probably want to charge your two-way radios, your GPS unit. If you have a flashlight, recharge that, and all those things. So I would definitely recommend a battery bank for all that. I also saw some other kits where, they have like solar panels and stuff like that. That's pretty intense. Now remember, we're just looking at maybe surviving just for a couple days, if not a week. And I think this would be plenty to get you by for a week. And especially if you're not, on Facebook all day long, right? You're supposed to be just surviving, not playing around on Facebook. So lastly, I just want to kind of double check my list here. So as you can see here, I got lots of other stuff on here. I also have Aqua Tabs. These tabs here are great because you can drop them in your water bottle and your water will be sanitized within like 30 minutes or something like that. So that's great, especially if your life straw is damaged, or let's say you just don't want to use it for whatever reason. Let's say the water's you feel is crystal clear, but you don't know what's in it. You know, there could be some beaver dam upstream or something like that. So you want to make sure that all the bacteria is all killed off in that thing. So you just throw a couple of these tabs in your water bottle and you're good to go. And then I'd recommend maybe some extra Band-Aids because, Band-Aids, they're cheap and lightweight. It doesn't hurt to have an extra couple of Band-Aids, some sort of antibiotic, in case, so you don't get infection. And then don't underestimate the power of acetaminophen and ibuprofen, right? Because if you get sick, or let's say, something gets infected or something like that, you're going to want some Advil to help with the pain. Let's say you break an ankle, and you just need to make it that little bit further, but the pain's just excruciating. This might be life-changing. This might be able to reduce the swelling enough to where you can make it from point A to point B without just, dying out there. And now, other things I would probably recommend in your bag, but this is all, I feel it's all luxury items, you know what I mean? So here you got a pad to sleep on. So I think this pad here, it's a waterproof insulating foam mat, which basically, it just gives you a barrier from the ground, because that ground is very cold and can be very wet. And if you can get yourself something, some sort of barrier in between there, that will help you out tremendously and keep you and your equipment dry, and also be a lot warmer. I'd also recommend some sort of wool blanket to keep you warm. You got a saw. This would help with firewood processing or maybe shelter building. This way you can cut large chunks of wood easily and quickly with little effort. I love these type of saws. Their teeth on them are really aggressive. You just be very careful. They are sharp, of course, and just don't hurt yourself. But that's why I'd also recommend those gloves, like I told you earlier. Another thing, never hurts to throw some extra emergency blankets in there. It never hurts to have a couple extra of these things. They're super lightweight, don't take up much room. Just throw a couple in there. And I kind of like the camouflage ones or the green ones, or even brown, just because help you blend into the environment. Because if you're trying to hide and you don't want somebody to see you, this will help cover up maybe your equipment or maybe part of your campsite, and so that way you're not seen. And then I'd recommend some sort of poncho. A lot of ponchos are made out of plastic. I thought these were kind of cool, that these were kind of made out of Mylar, and you can also get different colors, and which would be great because, if you're trying to blend in, this might be helpful. And a poncho is also great. I noticed these ponchos here were actually pretty large, and they would actually fit over the top of your backpack as well. So if it's just dumping rain and you're just trying to get from point A to point B, this will keep your gear and yourself dry from point A to point B. And then here we got this is kind of like a lightweight fishing system. So I thought this was really cool. This is from K-Bar, and you can basically spool this up full of string, and you can cast out with it. I was watching this show called Alone, if you're familiar with that, and this guy basically kind of made one out of wood that was similar to this, and I thought it worked really well. He was able to cast really far, and what's nice about this is that you can actually open it up and you can fill all your fishing gear inside this thing, all your hooks and maybe weights and bobbers and everything else. You can put that in there, so that's ready to go. What I thought that was great about this, I believe it's made out of plastic, so if you accidentally throw it and it actually will float supposedly. So that way you won't lose it if you accidentally throw it out in the lake or something like that. Uh, Here I got some ammo cases. This is just for I would recommend if you have it available to you to carry some sort of weapon or something like that, something to defend yourself with. And nothing is, I believe, greater than the great equalizer out there, which is guns, right? And so but guns are useless without ammo. So I would just recommend just taking some extra ammo with you. I would not recommend carrying the gun inside the backpack, while you're just, if it's just sitting in the car all day or whatever, if you're just, as a waiting bug out bag, I'd prefer to keep the gun separate because you don't want somebody's hands getting on that bag and stealing it and stuff like that. So I would still recommend locking up your guns. That way those are safe, but in a bug out situation, hopefully that gun is either on your person or you can access it quickly along with your bug out bag and it'd be easily, combinable. This is also some more luxury items. This is just a nice soft sleeping bag. I don't, this is really cheap sleeping bag. It's only $20 or $25. So I don't know how soft it is, but if you just want a decent night's sleep, this might be a little better. And let's see if we can find anything else here. So all the way at the bottom here, I thought this was kind of interesting. So this is more for an urban environment. I would recommend Silcock keys. So Silcock keys are great for commercial applications. So if you're traveling from point A to point B, and let's say you're traveling through an industrialized area and you start getting thirsty, right? Well, it depends on where you live. If there's no streams or creeks or fresh water anywhere, these buildings, these industrial buildings might be your only hope for water. And if you are familiar with any commercial buildings, you cannot access their hose bibs on the outside because you need a special key. Well, that's what the Silcock key is for. So if you got one of these keys in your backpack, you can unscrew the lock and get fresh water right out of the building. No filtration needed, and it could be a lifesaver. And a lot of businesses, they're vacant a lot of times, and especially if it's in an apocalyptic situation, those businesses are most likely your best bet for water, especially right away. Now, I thought this was also kind of interesting. A lot of preppers and survivalists were recommending handcuff keys, right? Which I thought was kind of interesting. So they recommended actually carrying this maybe either on your person or on your keychain or something like that. This was great for in case, somebody maybe tries to kidnap you or something like that, and you somehow end up in handcuffs. And this way you're able to get out of those handcuffs and be able to get loose. And so even if maybe it might take a while, at least you can run away and maybe take them off later. That would be great. So there's handcuff keys. Also, it could go the reverse. Let's say you meet an individual that is being violent towards you, and you want to subdue them somehow. Then I would also recommend maybe some zip ties, some large zip ties you can use to help restrain somebody just temporarily, just until you get find some help. And another thing zip ties are great for are because they're very versatile. If you need to attach this over here and maybe connect something so it doesn't fall off your person or something like that, zip ties can be very versatile in that help repair your shelter. Anything. So I just recommend a few zip ties. You probably don't need 400 or anything like that, but I'd recommend a few. So another thing I wanted to talk about was this would be more for an urban situation. So they also recommended bolt cutters. So bolt cutters would be nice. Let's say you're going from point A to point B and you run into a barbed wire fence, right? And or a chain link fence that maybe has some razor wire on top or something like that. And you don't want to climb that and get cut with a razor wire and stuff like that. So bolt cutters might be an option to where you can get through it without hurting yourself. And now this is probably for more advanced people, but this one is a bushcraft auger tool. I thought it was kind of cool. This would be for more of a long-term situation. I would not recommend this for short-term, but I just thought it was cool because you could actually make, furniture or, work on your shelter, especially if you had very limited supplies. Like if you wanted to attach two pieces of wood together but you didn't have nails or anything like that, you could use this auger tool to help make that. Okay, real worlders, tell me if you like this list for bugging out, if you would add, subtract, divide, multiply, anything on this list. So let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button. Really helps my channel out. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. So let's do it all together. And I'll try to put links for all these items down below. Check those out. And peace out.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.